I made an entire album with one of my closest childhood friends, Vil. In this video, I will be going in depth on all the aspects of this album, by breaking down the lyrics, story, and more. But please, before I go on, give it a listen and make your own interpretation. It is only 21 minutes long, and this video should still be here when you come back. Let's break down the lyrics. I will be looking a lot at this monitor now, because this is where I have my lyrics. I hope I leave enough space to put them up here. Ecclesiastical, the kid is that fantastical. Catch him in the city where they call him extraterrestrial. He is not normal in the city, he's odd. In maybe multiple ways, from the perspective of being possibly bullied, or being just different. But yet he is so factual, all he spits is real and actual. Compared to all the players, the raps are just so fictional. This is a little jab at people writing fake stuff. All that Marcus Ruggle speaks is true stuff. He only tells the truth, and if he doesn't tell the truth, then he shuts up. Got C on his grades, but yet he's intellectual. Matching his looks, you can call that shit proportional. Even though he got C on his grades, he's clever, he's smart, it's going good for him. This is a bit of a cocky line that I wrote because I got C on my grades and it was fun to be a little bit arrogant. I can tell that you are skeptical, a kid on the mic not seen before. It was always hypothetical but in the future just a spectacle. At the moment you're skeptical that this kid is going to perform well. Before they were talking about this potential thing that could maybe happen, but in the future they will be talking about this thing that happened once. He can make it a cappella. The beat is that subtractable. His tense is in the future. These words are just so bendable. This part is without a beat, or with the beat pulled down. Out of the perspective of Marcus Ruggle, making it without a beat, making it without anything supporting him is the best thing that he can do. And his tenses in the future, these words are just so bendable. It's still looking into the future, but it's also a hint at Futurama, where the robot called Bender is. In the Futurama universe, Bender is a robot whose primary task is bending metal. This shit is like a fireball, spitting harder after all. He don't really like the cold, so you'll bury him in Portugal. The first two lines there, I don't have anything to explain it by, but I found the third and fourth line very just fun to write. He's dead. He can't care, but it's just, he's gonna go that extra length to make it a disaster once he dies. He's way taller than you all, Mole Walker just like Saul, great straight posture just like heterosexual. Saul Goodman in Better Call Saul basically manipulates an old woman at a nursery home to go along with some deal or whatever. So he becomes a mole walker with them just to become friends with them. Great straight posture, because you need to walk with a good posture. Just like heterosexual, that's just tying into the straight heterosexual. Whatever, just wordplay. Don't call this shit a stretch. Nothing's that elastical. These rhymes all go hard, the kid is just that classical. You can't stretch these things that much. It's impossible. Been writing for 5 years. There it is. So yes, he has material. It's amazing how he did call this shit a miracle. Of course I have material because I've been writing for 5 years. I don't know how many words I'm up to now. I can actually check here. I'm up to 13,000 words in my long document of just writing whatever bar comes to mind. Spend money on a Barbie doll, children happy after fall, no pigs in on the call, go big and spend it at the mall. And I'm gonna be honest with you, this is just something I wrote for it to rhyme. Because as you may have noticed, everything rhymes with all in the end. Rather go big than go small, call him so imperial. Took shortcuts, he made it feel so practical. He'd rather go bigger than smaller, like imperialism. He took shortcuts because it was more practical. Soon he'll blow up, call this truck collateral. Call the local FD and say that you will fire all. It doesn't mean much, but I really like the wordplay there. Soon to blow up, call this truck collateral. This truck is going to blow up once he blows up, getting in the way of his fame. Call the local FD, the local fire department, and say that you will fire all. But it's just funny because fire, fire, fire. It's funny. This beat is all conceptual until he passed this firewall. Earn himself some money and transfer like a wire call. This is a line connected to the fact that I want FL Studio. I was maybe looking at other means to get it, but my firewall was protecting my legitimacy. So instead, Earn himself some money and transfer like a workhole. Earn some money and transfer that stuff instead. Feeling better after hospital. His movie on a camera roll. Sit high up on a pedestal and that's what he'll call climbable. He's better after hospital, of course. If something happened, go to the hospital. His movie on a camera roll. His story, his movie is on everybody's camera roll. Everybody has seen it, you know. Sit high up on your pedestal and that's what he'll call climbable. He can reach whatever level you're at. Look high up in the sky while he's writing this here tropical. Nothing is outdated now, that's what we call topical. The first half of this is a reference to J. Cole's Heaven's EP. He said something like, writing this somewhere tropical. And in the music video, he is sitting in a private jet, so that's why you're gonna look high up in the sky. Nothing is outdated now, that's what we call topical, of course. Something that isn't outdated is topical. Nothing's funny at the crawl, but yet it's so hysterical. Yet he's having fun, acting so theatrical. Even though the bar crawl isn't funny, it's so hysterical. They are laughing at how boring it is, they are just having fun in life. Yet he's having fun, acting so theatrical. He's adjusting to the situation, fitting in, being theatrical. Even though he is this extraterrestrial. He's writing this in order, just so he'll embarrass y'all. As you can tell by this track, the kid, he has potential. That's the truth. I was writing it in order. I didn't have to adjust anything, like where the lines were sitting, to make this work. As you can tell by this track, the kid has potential. As you can tell, I feel like I have potential. Pears. Old friends grow old, like old pears not sold. We change in drastic ways, live life and grow mold. This stayed as the beginning of this track because I wanted to write this song really to primarily focus on friendships growing old. Because I had lost some friendships during that time and I wanted a way to handle it. So I started writing this song about like, of course old friendships are going to grow old, like that's just the way nature takes it. The pears that you don't buy, and as you can also spell it, pears as in P-E-E-R-S, they will grow mold if you don't entertain that relationship. The good times aren't the same and the new ones feel so lame. If I had one wish, what? Time's the thing I'd tame. I've talked a lot about time on this album and it really stems from this point. Time is the thing I would tame. But the reality is, but that's not how it is, and I'd be back to reminisce. It's happened in this text disguised as a kiss. Mwah. It simply isn't like that. You can't tame time, so instead we'll have to reminisce, we'll have to look back in time and enjoy the old days. The whole disguised as a kiss line is just because I found it funny. You have to make some jokes. And that's why I wrote, I know I take the piss, and that's what you will miss. If I call myself the shit, you would take it as a diss. I know that I'm joking, and this friend of mine, that's maybe what they will miss. They will miss my jokes. And if I call myself the shit, they would take it as a diss. They can still get offended by me thinking that I'm better than them for not being the one leaving. A guy with none to lose is a light and a quick fuse. Offer him some help, uncomfortably refuse. This is a line that I'm so proud of, because somebody who has nothing to lose is just that small step away from losing it. So they are a light and a quick fuse, like on a dynamite. And if you offer him some help, he'll uncomfortably refuse. I know this from my own experience, of course, and it's not something unusual. But from my experience, when somebody offered some help or asked how I was doing or whatever, I would just uncomfortably just close down, say, I'm doing okay, I'm just tired, no I don't need help. And it can also be interpreted as refuse. This dynamite lights up again and explodes once again. Why am I depending on silly letters on my phone? I was young and now I'm grown, sitting steady on the throne. Up to the point of Saint Ruggle, this is really my own story. I started questioning like, why am I depending on these silly letters on my phone? And that's the stuff that I was creating in my notes app, all these 13,000 words that I mentioned earlier. Why am I depending on those to handle my emotions? I finally got over most of that stuff. I won over depression, but I learned myself a lesson. Don't get too attached and keep them constant guessing. And that is still connected to friendships, because the more attached you are, the more it will hurt. And sure, it's not bad to hurt sometimes, but this was my impulsive reaction to getting hurt. I am a planner, but my decisions are impulsive. I have manners, but people find me repulsive. So even though I plan stuff, in the end I will make a impulsive decision and change those plans. Even though I have manners, some people of course don't like me. Because that's just the way it is. Everybody can't like everybody. You know that shit hurts, so dress them up in dress shirts and ties before your last evil words goes to someone who dies. And then we have someone who dies. Someone always dies. No one helps Ruggle, and no one ever tries. I found this to be a nice way to hint at Ruggle's fate, while also connecting the fact that these mean words can hurt someone, so once you've heard Saint Ruggle, you'll know that, okay, that's what he was pointing at. I'm scared of that 1-year anniversary. I'm still learning like I'm stuck in university. This is where we go on to the relationship part of Pears, or the love part that I mentioned earlier. Like I said, friends, self, love, family, and work. This is actually connected to my own relationship, how I felt when I was getting close to that 1-year anniversary with my current girlfriend. So I was starting to panic, and I wrote this stuff. So I'm scared of the 1-year anniversary, and I'm still learning like I'm stuck in university. I'm still learning how to live life. I was 14, now that 19's catching up to me. I don't know what to do, but it feels like an emergency. Due to the stuff that I've gone through, it feels like I'm suddenly close to 19. I wrote this right before I turned 19, and I didn't know what to do, and it felt like an emergency. Or at least an urgency. Do I have time to stop, turn around and see? I felt like all of these stressful things about turning 19 and getting close to this 1-year anniversary and everything were getting so close that I wouldn't have time to stop and just look around. I just needed some time to pause. And that ties back once again to if I had one wish times the thing I'd tame. When grain runs through our palm and rain just makes us calm, is that paradise making life softer than some lip balm? When grain runs through a palm, sitting at the beach, taking it easy. Simple symbolism for taking it easy. Rain making us calm, it's not gonna be like, oh no, it's raining, how am I gonna do this stuff, this stuff. Instead, we just see it as a calming, soothing thing. My heart on my sleeve and my brain on a crane. Keep it high on the chart so I jab on the weave. Is it bad to speak in honest terms? Will they knock you down and just spit germs? Is it bad to be honest? Is the question I'm asking here. Then comes the question, will they knock you down and just spit germs? Will they, due to what you're saying, punch you down and the only response you'll get is getting spit on? Do you want temporary reasons to stay together? Comes with permanent seasons of boring weather. This ties back to the relationship stuff. No matter if it's a love relationship or friend relationship, if you base that on temporary reasons to stay together, if you look at like a classmate, the reason you're friends when you're like 8 is because you live close. But that is a very temporary reason why you're friends. My longest lasting friends, we are friends due to having things in common, and those are longer reasons to stay together. I had finally been bested, so on the 7th day arrested, wasted too much time, didn't get back what I invested. First of all, this was a very hard line to pronounce when rapping. It was like a full-on tongue twister, and even just saying it now feels like it foams up. I don't know how to describe it. So on the 7th day arrested, that's a reference to God resting on the 7th day when making earth. I wasted too much time and didn't get back what I invested. I spent too much time on these relationships and I didn't get back the time that I invested. And that's just in general to relationships. I've had a sister and a sister, now I have an older brother. He backs me better than a mother and he's helped me to recover. When I was younger, I had 2 sisters, but one of them is transsexual. And that's why I say now I have an older brother. He really stood there as a proper figure in my life who took care of me when I needed it the most. And then I say to him, sorry for when I was numb, my actions were so dumb, walking in with my notes and dropped them like a bomb. I had written some stuff in this notes app that I mentioned earlier, and I came in and read it out for him, And I was feeling so bad at the time that I didn't really interpret what they meant, but he interpreted them in a way worse way, in a Saint Ruggle way, if you understand what I mean. And that's just me saying sorry to him for that moment. We've been joking about it afterwards, but at the time he got really scared and had a hard time sleeping that night. And I'm sorry for that. The beat is dropping cause I wrote this at my decline. The heat is stopping cause I found a way to realign. This isn't really connected to the track because the beat wasn't dropping, but it sounded better. So I wrote that at my decline. That's why the beat is dropping, because it's all going downhill. The heat is stopping because I found a way to realign. The heat is finally slowing down, like all this pressure on me is finally slowing down because I found a new focus. And that is, make a living to make a living who can take your living while you're living. I've had some interesting interpretations of this one from friends and family. So I'm curious what you think that means before I expose it, because it's still not the right answer. Please comment down below if you have some thoughts on it. But what I meant was make a living, get money, to make a living, to afford getting a child, who can take your living, a child costs money, while you're living. It's a pretty simple line, but it's like, my new focus was to get an actual life, get a child, and even though it costs money, it's a wonderful thing. And then I clarify everything by saying, I want to get kids for me to have a restart, not to pursue my hobbies, but tell them to be smart. I see way too many parents making their child pursue the parents' hobby because they themselves didn't do it. That door is important to have someone to talk to, just leave it open so that somebody can walk through. I visualized the door in my bedroom, letting my brother, who I mentioned earlier, come in and talk to me. Leaving that door open is important so that somebody can come in and help you. You always tell your story too loud or too quiet, but if the truth came out, they will cause a riot. No matter what, you either were complaining too much, telling your story too loud, or, oh my god, I didn't know anything. You're being too quiet. And no matter what, if the truth came out and if people actually listened, they would cause a riot. Because if they listened at the correct time, there is a risk that they would fight you about it, cause a riot. And then we're on to the work part. I write a couple words just to see how they land, but you can't rush my work, it's not print on demand. So I write in that notes app, which I mentioned a couple of times now, just to see how they land. I just write something down and maybe I look back on it 2 months later, just like how I wrote this entire song. I took pieces and put them together. And that's a reason why I was surprised that this is most people's favorite song, actually. But I guess that's due to the perspective on things. But I felt like these are like years old lyrics. Why does it still sound good? So I just write down stuff and see how they land. But no matter what, you can't rush my work. It's not print on demand. The whole service of requesting merch or whatever, printing on demand, you can't rush my work like it. You can't just adjust it and immediately done. I have to take my time. That's why I've been writing this stuff for 5 years and just now putting things together. I'm tossing and turning, it feels like infinity. I sleep for 3 hours so death can creep up on me. That is a reference to Nas on Illmatic. Sleep is the cousin of death. I'm tossing and turning, it feels like infinity. That's when I had trouble sleeping. If I only sleep for 3 hours, then nothing bad can happen. You know, that whole mentality. Spent 5 years making Overlook, but I am not a chef, scared to let it overcook. I wrote this when I was starting to panic about getting done with Overlook, because I've already spent 5 years on it. What if I'm getting into that like perfectionist part of making it? I was scared to like let this marinate for too long and then becoming old, just leaving it on the shelf and it never coming out. I meticulously plan my track list just for you to separate my tracks and play them in your playlist. This is a little jab at people who only listen to playlists. I look at albums as a full thing, and even though there are some songs I don't like, I prefer to listen front to back on an album, because it's still a full artwork that somebody planned. And that's why I'm saying I planned this track list, but you still just take your favorite songs and put them in your playlist. And I appreciate every stream I get, but this is just how I look at playlists. I put in work and watch my status escalate. I put in work and watch my status escalate. This is written as almost a chant to make it happen. And it's also a reference to Work by Gangstar on Moment of Truth. I felt like it fit into here and also fit into the next song being Become Graffiti, because this track ending with the work thing and then graffiti being about focusing too hard on what I'm creating prepares for that Become Graffiti perspective to happen. With tunnel vision, everything is beautiful. I'm tired of the basic and so usual. People bully those who's visible, but envy those who are. When you only see this much, everything is beautiful, because you have nothing to compare it to. I am tired of the basic and so usual, comparing things and being like, wanting to make something different. And finally, people bully those who are visible, but envy those who are. So people both bully those who are visible, who are taking all of the attention. You know that person who always got bullied in school because they were too much. These people who bully them also envy those who are visible. This connects to the next line. Miserable. This is not permissible. I keep speaking, but you're lowering the decibel. So this really means that those who are visible are also miserable. You know that whole saying of like, the loudest person in the room is also the loneliest of them all. That's what I wanted to hint at. So that all of these very visible people who are being bullied for being so visible are also miserable. If you put it all together, people bully those who's visible, but envy those who are miserable. They still envy the visible person. This is not permissible. I keep speaking, but you're lowering the decibel. This connects back to, you always tell your story too loud or too quiet, but if the truth came out, they would cause a riot. So you won't allow these truths to be said, so instead you're lowering the decibel on your speakers. You don't want to hear any more of Pears. And that's where the song ends. Become Graffiti. The melodic of the blues, tryna fucking drink some booze. I've got a lot of dues to pay, but I lost so many screws. This is distracting from a bunch of things that you owe, and you're getting crazy from it. I drink 5 cups in a day, gonna sway and pass away. Bitch, get out my fucking way, I need my needle off the hay. As you can tell, Saint Ruggle is going back to that arrogance from the kid, but he is less playful this time. He's way more aggressive about it. He's distracting himself by drinking a bunch, and he knows that in the end he's gonna sway and pass away. And he tells everybody else to get out of his way because he needs his needle out of the hay. And that is like needle out of the haystack. He needs that one person, you know. Wake up, I have a say in this world built out of clay. In a year I'll be on top, put this beat out on an ashtray. I just like the way that is written. Saint Ruggle has something to say in this fake world built out of clay. And in a year he believes that he will be on top, so put this beat out on an ashtray is just a sick way of saying that. That's really why I wrote it like that. So as you can tell, like, most of these things aren't me talking anymore. This is becoming like Saint Ruggle. That's what's called a mic drop. Many try to fight cop. That's a big mistake, but you realize that's the gun pop. It's a mistake to fight a cop because sooner or later. Buried by the lake, getting praises by the snake. Guy who bust my cap will be spotted as a fake. This is also like foreshadowing to the end of Saint Ruggle. The snake in this case are the people at the after party talking shit about him. The guy who bust my cap will be spotted as a fake. These people believe that Marcus Ruggle was a fake, and Marcus Ruggle is the one who bust his own cap, who shot himself. It ain't BS, it ain't pop. Put in PS and I crop. See through on my top, be so patient and I drop. That's just a little diss at pop. I don't like pop music. I feel like it is so fake. It feels so manufactured, in my opinion. There are still some pop songs that I can appreciate, but it's nothing that I go out of my way to listen to. Put in PS and I crop, which is put in Photoshop and I crop. See through on my top, so this is both like editing images, references. You crop the image and you bring down the transparency so you can see his heart, you can see what he's saying. Be so patient and a drop. And that's finally me speaking, where I'm saying, be patient, I will drop Overlook. 5 years trying to write this, secretly ate chef's kiss, spending late nights with a pen and a soul this. Secretly a chef's kiss. That is back to the chef being scared to overcook it. But it's also like, none of my friends knew that I was making this. So in secrecy, it's mwah. I spent late nights writing, and I'm really like deconstructing myself and looking honestly at myself. Pick as you please from my list of IDs. That sounds like some yay shit, self-conscious on the tape shit. Bending the words like that makes it sound like something from Self-Conscious. On College Dropout, he pronounced like her, hair, her. Like, he really bends the words to make it rhyme. And it's really just a reference to that. Calculate your every step, make a wrong you overstep. It is simple mathematics, most def wreaking havoc. If you don't calculate your steps or your words, you will overstep, stepping over that line. But in reality, it's simple mathematics, you just have to do the right thing. And then I reference Mos Def because on Black on Both Sides, he has a song called Mathematics. Swedish mispronunciation, read this in the subway station. Relations to some propaganda makes you throw an instant gander. I'm aware that I'm not pronouncing all of these words correctly, because my Swedish tongue, it can't handle it. Read this in the subway station. Relations to some propaganda makes you throw an instant gander. It's almost like how Twitter, they gain traction from the most outlandish things. That is what gets reactions on Twitter. If you are provoked by something, you will have more of a reaction than if you agree with it. Here we go again, ears ringing like Big Ben. You ain't no one, you ain't then. You ain't no one, you ain't friend. Here we go again, the tinnitus is back, basically. Ears ringing like Big Ben. Every now and then my ears start ringing. That's just normal. And if you're no one, you aren't a friend. That's just trying to show the aggression in Marcus Ruggle. Never studied for a day. Shut up, it ain't no way. That was a tad bit simple, but let me pop like pimple. I never studied for a day. And then if somebody is saying like, oh no way, in an ironic sense, that's why the quotation marks are there, you mean I do see that you never studied, you know. The English spell for realize, can't tell shit I be wise, impossible for you to see without spelling can it be. How you spell realize, as the British spelling is with an S instead of a Z or a Z. Can't tell shit I be wise, you can't tell me anything else, I'll be smart. Impossible for you to see, or Z, without spelling can it be. So you can't see that line without spelling it out and actually like calculating what does it mean by English spell for realize. It's a simple line, but I find it a bit clever. Constantly be asking, is it spells I'm casting? Most important thing, are they forever lasting? Going further to the bottom, falling like it's autumn, aging like be button, hard stuff what I'm cut from. While I'm writing these things, being focused on creating good stuff, I'm going further down in my mental spiral. And I'm falling like it's autumn because fall, autumn, same thing, leaves falling from the tree. Aging like be button, like Benjamin Button from The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, where he ages backwards. Hard stuff what I'm cut from. And that's just a little like, I can do this stuff. I'm cut from a different cloth or whatever. Trust on the microphone, getting buried by my home, real construction zone, rhyme zone on the loan. So the microphone I'm using has a pop filter that says Trust GXT, which is like the mic I'm using here as well. Getting buried by my home. Now it's almost relating to the getting buried by the lake, but instead by my home. I don't get as fancy of a location. Real construction zone, I'm creating stuff in trade, construction as we mentioned in the start. Rhyme zone on the loan. I'm just being honest. On some of these things I have to use rhyme zone to figure out the correct word. My mama said, don't knock it till you try it. Well, I'll go door to door, I'll knock until you buy it. The basic saying, don't knock it till you try it. Give it a chance at least, but I will be a door-to-door salesman, knocking until you buy my album. I will promote this stuff until you give it a listen. I'd rather be impatient than eliminated, always working hard, overstimulated. Instead of getting eliminated, falling behind, I'd rather be impatient, I'd rather be like ahead. If there's a wall in front of how much work I can do, I'd rather be up here than back here getting eliminated. Always working hard, overstimulated. Both me and my brain always working hard. My brain is overstimulated and I'm working hard. Running with the circus, monkeys gonna murk us, go straight to the point, no need for a lurk fuss. On some of my oldest lines, I'm talking about a zoo a lot, brain controlled by a zoo and such things. Zoo. As I said, Swedish mispronunciation. But so, running with a circus, monkeys gonna murkus. I'm running with the circus, but some of the animals, the monkeys, are gonna kill us. Instead of tiptoeing around it, I tell them to go straight to the point, no need for lurk fuss. You don't have to pretend to be real if you're in the end going to leave. It's back to Pears where it was, don't get too attached and keep them constant guessing. Instead, like, promote that they just tell the truth instantly, that these monkeys are going to kill you. Catch me on the TV, sway and be the real me. I am not the artist, I've become graffiti. On YouTube right now, this is not me. Like, this is not the person you would meet if you're out on the street saying hi to me. I am different because I fully control the space. So even here, I'm not the artist, I become graffiti. Even here, I'm graffiti. I'm the art I'm making. After recording this, I will be cutting it all down, removing my imperfections. So even though you see me on the TV, you can never sway and be the real me. And I am not the artist, I become graffiti. All of my self-worth was, and if I'm gonna be totally honest, kind of still is, in what I create. I'm still working on that stuff, but I properly dealt with it while writing the song. Intarsia on my heart. This is the point on Overlook where it's taking a much darker turn, and really like the darker tones that have been hinted at get fully explained. I feel bad for the people who got to know me at my lowest. Spent long time building up relations at the slowest. Like I said earlier, this is a really real poem for me, because half this track was written while I really felt like it, and the other half was written when I felt better. This is really me just writing out my emotions, and this is a look into my diary, basically. So I really felt bad for the people who got to know me when I was at my worst, because they didn't get the real me. They didn't get the enthusiastic, outgoing person. They got the introvert instead, who really didn't want to meet anybody new. I wasn't the most effective person at getting new friendships at the time. I was so closed as a person. Nobody was interested in talking to me because I didn't contribute with anything. And that's just the honest truth. Pacing around at night, overthinking everything I said. Thinking life was a hard game, I just wished to be dead. So late at night, I wasn't pacing around really, I was more lying in bed, tossing and turning. It feels like infinity. But I was like just laying in bed, not being able to sleep, overthinking everything I said that day, being like, oh, did I tell that person too much? Or should I have handled this social situation in a different way? I thought that life was just a hard game. I don't remember the first time I did this, but I really like started comparing life to a game. It felt like during these very dark years, it was on hard mode, like brutal mode, fucking hardcore mode. And I just wished it would be over, honestly. Old school hip hop brought me to a different reality. I never experienced the time frame, but it was real to me. No chorus or emotional bullshit got time to be spit. Now leave the door open for emotions and have chorus for a bit. So my way of like dealing with this pain, or not at all dealing with it, was to listen to music. Somewhere I found comfort was in old school hip hop. And even though I'd never experienced that time, like the 1980s, 1990s, it felt so real to me. I really enjoyed it, and it was a place of comfort. And now that I'm already so like open and emotional about this stuff, I can tell you the truth. Like, I would spend, I believe, like 3 or 4 hours just listening to music until I like passed out. I would wake up with my headphones in, holding my phone. I didn't have time to like feel tired. I just let myself pass out every night because I didn't want to think. Instead, I blast down my ears with old school hip hop. And that's probably why my ears sometimes ring like Big Ben now. What I really enjoyed about old school hip hop was that no like proper chorus, because some old school hip hop songs have like where you're just chanting the song name basically. So no chorus or emotional bullshit got time to be spit. There wasn't any like playing around with that emotion stuff or like any in-depth choruses. It was just pure lyricism and pure just artwork without having to think, and that was what I needed at the time. But now I leave the door open for emotions and have chorus for a bit. So first of all, leaving the door open for emotions and everything, that connects back to the tips for my future kids, you know, that door is important to have someone to talk to. So I'm leaving that door open so that somebody can come in and help me, and I also have chorus for a bit. It was going to be and leave the chorus in the pit, but I also realized that Saint Ruggle was going to have a chorus, so I couldn't say that, so I'll have chorus for a little bit. I let that part of myself come in. I let that part of the music come in for a little bit on this album. Call this track the skit, not an interlude. I'll expose myself and let me feel nude. As you may remember, I said that this was going to be called Realize Skit. That is because my way of coping has always been humor, making fun of my life, hoping to stop this tumor. It was going to be called Skit because I enjoy making fun of things, making heavy things lighthearted. As you may have noticed when I'm talking about this album, I can't resist making a joke every now and then to make it less serious. On this track, I would like expose myself and let myself feel naked. I would just show everything. I'd be putting it in PS, cropping, and being transparent on my top, as I said on Become Graffiti. And I was hoping to stop this tumor called depression, basically, because it was getting overwhelming. And this is when, it's not really half the song, honestly, but this is when I was done with this track to begin with. But then, when I felt better, I really wanted to have a happier ending to it. So then I wrote, we never experience our feelings, we just tuck them away, keeping our trauma in our mouths like some exotic inlay. Pretty self-explanatory. You never speak out about your emotions, you let it stay in your mouth like it's some exotic inlay. So you know inlays like in your teeth. That's not a usual inlay you can get. You can't get emotions or trauma as an inlay, and that's why it's an exotic inlay. I was tired of that life, so I turned it all to art. Made beauty out of it, like Intarsia on my heart. So I was tired of keeping it all in, so instead I wrote this entire album and all of my songs, and I made beauty out of it, like Intarsia on my heart. And this is where I found Intarsia, because I had heard about Intarsia sometime when I was way younger, but I didn't think about it. And when I wanted to figure out if inlay was the thing I was actually looking for, the word Intarsia showed up, and I felt like that was such a beautiful like picture in my head when I made beauty out of it, like Intarsia on my heart. Saint Ruggle. Awful bunch of struggle, common like a bundle, easy shit to handle once you learn to juggle. As a kid here, that life isn't fair. Funny thing is that you do care. Giving out hugs just like a bear, close the blinds as you make a scare. So this is someone who's trying to like teach Ruggle about life, saying that it isn't fair. But the funny thing is that that person themselves don't trust that lesson. They give out hugs, like bear hugs, to comfort, but once the blinds are closed, they are scary, like a bear. Mentally abused, music kept amused, clock still ticking, butt bomb felt diffused. All of this playing back and forth with the bear being a very comforting, hugging bear out in the open and behind blinds being scary. That's a long line of mental abuse. And instead, music kept Ruggle amused. Then the line of clock still ticking, but bomb felt diffused. That connects back to a guy with none to lose is a light and a quick fuse. Offer him some help, uncomfortably refused. You thought that the bomb was defused, but the clock is still ticking down. Sooner or later it's going to boil over in this cup. Marcus was depressed, but he kept that shit suppressed. The lid was on for ages, like the kid was kept oppressed. Marcus kept his depression hidden and suppressed and silenced, you know. And the lid was on for ages, like in a jar, like the kid was kept oppressed, like somebody else held him quiet. A man with attitude issues, or simply just a life with scolding misuse and zero truths. Is Marcus Ruggle somebody who's just having attitude issues for no reason, or is there like an explanation from his life with the scolding misuse and zero truths being like zero peace? It just rhymed better than zero peace. His only wish to be remembered. In the right way, don't be dismembered. This connects to my actual like goal in life. I'm not looking to become famous or anything. I just want to be remembered like the person I was. In order to be happy with how I was remembered, I try to be as kind as possible. so that somebody will remember me the way that I was as a good person. That's like my life philosophy, and that's what makes me adjust to being nicer, because I want somebody to sit by the fireplace and tell their grandkids about me as a good person and not a bad person. So here I connect myself to Marcus Ruggle by saying that his wish was to be remembered in the right way. By don't be dismembered, I mean chopping the head off and just leaving the rest, you know. Like, you need to deliver the full package of who Ruggle or I was, no matter how harsh the truth is. Now, who was this? Man, here's Ruggle, a young good mantis brought through trouble. This is where I really like display that the first verse was about introducing Marcus Ruggle. He was a young good mantis who was brought through trouble. He grew up with some trouble, but he was still a young good kid. And then comes the chorus. This is the story about Saint Ruggle. Put your life in idle, he becomes your rival. If you don't care, he becomes your idol. This shit here's an endless spiral. The song is about Saint Ruggle, and if you put your life in idle, if you don't do anything in your life, he will become your rival. He will become your greatest enemy. If you do not care about that, he becomes your idol. So, if you don't care about him potentially taking your life, in this sense, Marcus Ruggle is almost like depression. If you don't care about that, being like Ruggle, ending your life, will be your goal if you don't do anything about the struggles you have in your life. And this shit here's an endless spiral. Just like that, if you don't do anything, it would just continue downwards in an endless spiral. Saint Ruggle was a tall man. Saint Ruggle had a mall plan. Open stores like soda can, connected like a Dota LAN. This is the second verse where people are talking, considering everything good about him. So they describe him as a tall man, almost like entrepreneurial. He was entrepreneurial. By that, he was opening stores like a soda can, you know, that quickly. And he was connected like a Dota LAN. He had a lot of friends, like the amount of players on a Dota LAN. You know the game, Dota. Not that big of family, but certain people cared. Of course, why certainly, but no one ever dared to see. So he didn't have a big family, but some people cared about him still. These people talking about him are like, of course people cared about him, but no one really like dared to see what was going on underneath the surface. But then we had one person. His neighbor in her garden made him drop his guard then. Talk for hours on end in her pretty yard then. So this line makes it very clear that it's in past tense. But there was somebody, an older lady potentially, in her garden who made him drop his walls and made him like expose his true feelings and what he was dealing with. Her pretty yard is to like visualize a very well kept garden, and sitting there by the flowers and roses and bushes, they had some time to just talk about emotions together. But once you open up, you keep it resurfaced. No way to cover up that's an overboiled cup. Once you open this lid that kept him suppressed earlier, it's really hard to cover it again. So it's like an overboiled cup, it just spills over once you open it. Most of us have experienced this. If you're dealing with something and then start talking about it, it's hard to stop talking about it, because you just need to get all of the emotions out of there before you can close that lid again. And that is not a bad thing, because you really need to let go of some pressure every now and then. Nothing indicated what he'd soon do. His goal was to be a symbol. Saint would do it nimble. Even though he talked with this lady about his struggles, even she could not see what he would do. And this can also be seen as the people at his funeral, saying that even this lady couldn't see it, so why would we be able to see it? In the end, his goal was to be a symbol. Being a saint would be the easy way. And like I said, to be a saint you have to be dead. So he would have to die. He's ending his life cause it's necessary. He loved this world, but his was secondary. Even though he loved this world, his own world that he was living in was secondary. It wasn't his primary world, and he didn't feel connected enough to it to keep it around. He had to let go of this world that we're all living in. He had a foul mind, seeing everything unkind in his friends who helped him blind. And this is actually from one of my first lines I ever wrote, that I rewrote to fit into Marcus Ruggle, where I wrote like something I have a foul mind seeing everything unkind in my friends, and then like, who want to help me, or whatever I wrote. It wasn't a good line, but I rewrote it to fit into this narrative. Saint Ruggle had all of these bad thoughts, and everything around him was unkind, in his opinion, while his friends were trying to help him without knowing how to help him. They were trying to help him blind. Because it's like that sometimes. If you have a friend who's dealing with something you have never dealt with, it's really hard to help even though you want to. So you're helping them as well as you can. That was once, but now he's quiet. Lost some pounds, but we denied it. All of this stuff was in the past, and now he's quiet. And why was he quiet? Well, he's passed away. And he lost some pounds, but we denied it. This is supposed to be just a symbol at there were some visible signs that he wasn't doing too good, but everybody around him, we being the people at this funeral, denied it. They didn't really want to see it, because that would mean that somebody had to take care of it. And then comes the chorus again. Saint Ruggle was a small man, Saint Ruggle had a small plan, eating parmesan with a gun in his offhand. Now we've twisted the whole narrative of Saint Ruggle being a tall man, having a mall plan and everything. Now he's a small man who's like pathetic, basically. He didn't have any big goals in life. Every day he was eating parmesan with a gun in his offhand. It may seem like a goofy line, and I kind of think it is, but even when eating breakfast, eating parmesan, eating just cheese, he's holding a gun in his offhand. All he could think about was ending his own life. Saint Ruggle may have lied, Saint Ruggle may have cried, loud out for help, but no one may have tried. Even though Saint Ruggle lied, which he may have done, you don't know what's the truth in this story. Saint Ruggle may also have cried, loud out for help, he may have asked for help, but no one may have tried. This is them claiming deniability, being like, all of this may have happened, but who knows if he lied, who knows if he actually cried for help, and who knows if nobody tried. This is them in the third verse, like really blaming Saint Ruggle for the selfishness in his actions. Certain folk who crumble may make others stumble into dark depths and follow our Saint Ruggle. And this is basically a rewrite of the chorus. People who crumble, like Saint Ruggle did, may make others stumble, and I've experienced this myself, and I'm sure some of you guys can recognize this. When you have a person around you who's feeling bad, if you aren't like balanced and stable yourself when trying to help them, it's easy to fall along with them into that dark pit. And then you may fall into dark deep depths and follow our Saint Ruggle. But yet he was immortalized, kept forever in our eyes. The truth and fakes of his story were kept forever unorganized. Even though he risked all of these people's lives, he was immortalized. He was remembered by this song, by Saint Ruggle's song. He was kept forever in our eyes. We will all keep seeing him around, no matter who he is from your life's perspective. And the truths and fakes of his story were kept forever unorganized. Nobody figured out what parts of his story were true or false. We just moved on. The end of time. I want to explain what I was thinking when I wrote this and like the meaning of it, but I don't really want to spoil it for anybody who has their own interpretation. Please make your own interpretation and hold on to it if you believe that that is more correct, because this is just what I was thinking when writing it. What I thought on that bus ride was that this is time coming to an end. Because Saint Ruggle has now died and the world is like ending, basically. So this is time talking, father time. I've outlived trees and I've seen people change. So the concept of time is an invention that we have made. If you look back on time, even though it didn't exist way back in time, we can still map out like that was millions and billions of years ago, even though millions and billions of years ago didn't exist. So time has, due to that as a concept, outlived trees, and it's seen people change. So time has a big overview of the world. They call me old, but I'm young compared to history. So when you look back at history, like I said, time can always be a perspective of history and when something in history happened. so then it must be young compared to it. I have somehow made eternity my daughter, and I'll forever be your father. I wanted to write this to have a way of saying or hinting at this being Father Time speaking, and I thought that what can be Time's daughter? Well, eternity feels right, because without time there's no eternity, and eternity is an infinite amount of time. And that's how I managed to fit in I'll forever be your father. And I like that line also because forever and eternity being mentioned. I was always popular in my school of concepts. Everyone asked me when something needed to be done. Change took me, help took me, results took me, even death took me. And that is, if you replace me, change took time, help took time, results took time, even death took time. Sooner or later, all of these things will come, as long as you make an effort for it. Putting it in the context of a school of concepts is something that I really liked, because I wanted a way to mention all these things that take time, and I think I did a clever job with it. But that me has passed, now I've changed, so that time has passed, now time has evolved. Don't be sad about it, that's just how it goes. Because now I take myself, time takes time. And I like that final line especially, because it almost sounds like a clock ticking. Time takes time. That was very flumit. That was very dopey, or like fuzzy, or weird way of explaining it, but that's what I was thinking when writing it. And then we have no rules to follow, which I've already explained the meaning of, and it doesn't have any lyrics, it's just me improvising. And that's Overlook. I hope you enjoyed this little breakdown and either got interested in giving it a listen or got a different perspective on it. If you feel like supporting my music journey, then please make sure to follow my Mgrain related social media pages and consider buying the digital album on Bandcamp, as this helps way more than streaming revenue. Please leave a like and some thoughts in the comments below. Also subscribe to see what happens next month. Take care.